How are you, Macylin? This is the second part of your birth chart dealing with progression, transit, cycles, and how to correlate them with mundane or current events. The planets in transit as they're happening now, but also the symbolic movement of the chart for X amount of years from now, X amount of months from now, weeks, or even days. We have been able to, and I'm talking about, as a over thousands of years, being able to really understand, and I guess this may have started with Ptolemy, going back towards the classical period, and how to move, well, not how to move. There was a basic understanding of the planets that were visible and in the common culture at the time. There was only really five. The moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, Saturn. Those were the guys that were the movers and shakers. We got our ability to eventually find out how and why the planets move, basically knowing that it's not really the planets that are moving, but the planet is Earth. The planet itself is moving, not the other planets. Not in the sense that we have the sunrise, culminate, and set. People thinking that it is the sun that's moving across the heavens. It's not the sun. The sun is stationary. It's our planet that keeps moving. It has two rotations. It rotates around its own axis, giving us a 24-hour day period, and then it goes around the sun. That's another rotation, and that gives us the year. Okay, both types of rotations are important in predicting current events, and the current events that occur on Earth are definitely connected to the planets. And whatever theme the planet symbolizes will play itself out in the person's personal life to mundane or current events. So we're going to go and jump right in and give an example. I don't want to give an example on Macylin's chart to protect her privacy, so I will use mine. Although I already have Macylin's transits and progressions and cycles already calculated. I may discuss one or two here. For her, I did it for 2 dates, age 40, which begins a major cycle, and then age 48, right? And we're going to talk about the Saturn return. Macylin has just passed through her Saturn return for about a few years now. So technically, when you go through your Saturn return at 29, it's supposed to change your life completely and open a new path to a new beginning that's going to last another 30 years. So it's a very significant cycle. But Ms. Macylin is not 29, she's in her mid-30s, right? Close to her late 30s. And we are now going to calculate what should be the next phase in her life. Because there's certain determinants when it comes to age connected to certain cycles, we have to look at age 40. Age 40 is another major cycle. I did mention in the first part that the first 40 years of life are determined by the moon sign. Past age 40, you begin to live the sun sign. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to look at the cycles of the planets. What cycle individually is approaching you, because age 40 is one cycle connected to the moon. But then there's going to be other minor cycles that are just as important as the major cycles. And we can connect them to the age of the person at the time or the current transits happening right now and connect them to the birth chart. If these transits are making aspects to your natal planet, it will trigger a response based on that aspect. For example, let's say we have Mercury go retrograde. We look at the date and time that it goes retrograde, and then we look at the birth chart, see where Mercury is by natal birth. And the retrograde that the person is going to go through currently is going to mimic the retrograde Mercury in the birth chart. Or it may not have been retrograde when you were born, but moving direct. So you may have been experiencing some good outflow of events that deals with communication, education, learning, your relationship with your siblings and second cousins, or your friends, or just the community at large, the environment. This is falls under Mercury and the third house, which rules the environment. When Mercury goes retrograde in transit, but it can also go retrograde by progression. And these are two phenomena here. If Mercury goes retrograde during transit, yes, everybody kind of already knows that it does affect things. It affects communication, radio waves, tower waves. Things can rescind on you. Old friends come back from the past. This is stuff that we have as astrologers documented over hundreds or even thousands of years, that these are the same kind of phenomena that occur every time Mercury goes retrograde. Right? So what do? We know Mercury is retrograde for at least 30 days. So at the most, 28, 27 at the least. So we just gotta sit and bear the inconveniences of a Mercury retrograde, especially if Mercury or Virgo or Gemini are very prominently placed in your birth chart, like on the ascendant or in the 10th house or the North Node. Right? But it's great because the retrograde is only like maybe